Do you think this is the appropriate way to train future physicians going forward?
Very controversial question. The ego thing of seniority has to go.
50% of medical graduates today are preferring to take general medicine. What is so special about it?
It's a stepping stone basically.
Yeah. The key differences between MD and DNB, general pros and cons.
So the pros in DNB would be, I think there's no
What do you think are the most important skill sets for somebody looking to specialize in internal medicine?
Be curious. No patient presents like a textbook picture. Okay, I might get attacked due to this. Surgery field in general is a bit more toxic.
There's this very famous 100-year study done by Harvard University.
We take work so seriously. Loneliness in elderly is an epidemic.
Hello and welcome back to Behind the Scrubs by Knya. Today we have Dr. Anuj Tiwari. Dr. Anuj Tiwari is a physician and a geriatrician with over 8 years of experience. He's also an assistant professor at a government medical college. Today we are very excited to have him, and I'm sure all our viewers would be very excited to hear from not just a professor but also a clinician. We'd also be very excited to hear from him and gain insights from this conversation. Dr. Anuj, thank you so much for joining us today. An absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking time on a Sunday afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us about your journey, all the way from MBBS to your postgraduate to practicing medicine and now teaching medicine.
So I started my undergrad from Crescere Hospital, which is just nearby, and that's where I started my undergrad. I am the first gen doctor, so I had no backing in the family. I had no idea how the medicine system used to work. I had this, a family doctor whom I saw was a big inspiration. How he was treated, how he used to treat people around him. And that's how, since the beginning, as a child, I was like, I wanted to be a doctor. Thankfully, I was good at biology, hated physics, and somehow I got here. And after science happened, that's when I realized that my calling lies in medicine. I took a drop 1 year so that I could just get medicine. I was very focused that I need only medicine, nothing else. And then I got into postgrad DNB from Deenanath Mangeshkar Hospital, Pune. And after that, I got at one of the medical colleges here where I'm teaching medicine, and it has been something which I've really enjoyed over time. Did not imagine that I'll be enjoying it so much, but I think teaching helps you get updated. Your students are asking these days, people read from YouTube, from internet, and they come and ask you questions. So that keeps you on the edge. It pushes you to read more and more so that you are up to date, so that you can answer your students if they ask and their queries are really sometimes out of the world, and I have to sometimes tell them, okay, just give me some time, I'll read back and come. So I think it's a good motivation to keep on moving, keep on updating yourself.
Awesome. If I'm not wrong, you had pursued your DNB as well.
Yes.
How was your experience? What were the challenges? Any learnings?
So DNB was initially, now the problem is now a lot of people don't understand what DNB is. Okay, Diplomat of National Board. So it's a degree given by the National Board, NBE, from New Delhi. And the MD degree is given by the state boards, basically, or MUHS or Master University of Health Sciences and all. As per the government directive, it is the same. The degree equivalence is the same between MD and DNB. Earlier, DNB did not have a CET. Maybe, I think even before I joined in, I think 10, 15 years back, you did not require an entrance exam to get into DNB. You work in that hospital for a few months, years, and then they take in you as a training program. Yeah. But since the past, I think more than 10 years, I don't know exact date, but when it became an entrance, that it has to be through entrance only, that's when things started getting better for DNBs, because now you had to score better to get into a DNB program. Yeah. So it was difficult to get in. I scored, less than, my rank was less than 200 All India. The only thing was, should I wait for 6 months to appear for the MD again? But I was so bugged by studying. I was like, chhod do, I'll just take this DNB seat. And it was a good institute. It was the top 4 institute in Maharashtra. So I was like, why not? And I think that really made the difference, because when COVID happened, I had passed out my DNB. If I had waited for 6 months, in the hindsight, that MD batch almost got passed out a year later. So I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I did if I had missed out on that DNB bus. So in a way, it turned out to be good for me. And plus, in a corporate setup, it was a good trust plus corporate setup. So you learn a lot of things on how to manage the relatives also, how to manage the patients beyond medicine, what all problems do you all face, financial issues that patients come across. So all that was a good learning curve. I was fit and pat ready to practice medicine when I got out of that place, which, maybe MD people work in a government setup may not get to see these things. That's all.
Awesome. For the audience, could you share the key differences between MD and DNB in terms of opportunity, in terms of work-life balance, in terms of challenges, general pros and cons?
So the pros in DNB would be, I think there's no bond. There's no bond period. So that's a very good thing. MD almost everywhere has, depending on the state governments, they have the bond period. Fees is the same, more or less, and the stipend is the same.
Yeah.
As per the government directive, it has to be the same.
Yeah.
Your state MD people, whatever they are getting paid, DNB also should get paid the same.
Yeah.
As far as opportunities are considered in the private sector, I think DNB has a good opportunity compared to MD. It is more or less the same. There is no difference when it comes to private sector. But in government sector, even today, I think there is a bit of partiality towards MD people. Like if you're applying for an interview for an assistant professor or something, if you're MD and if you're DNB, a little weightage is given to the MD guys over the DNB people. So I think that will change with time. Now I have come into a government setup as a DNB. I think this will change with time. But otherwise speaking, from the practice point of view, I don't think there's any major change. Of course, patients relate MD better with a doctor because that's what I've been hearing since so many years.
Yeah.
Okay, DNB is something which is new. I have to explain them, okay, this is the same thing. This is what it means. So from that point of view, yes, sometimes we do find it difficult. But if your skill is good, I don't think it matters if you're an MD or DNB.
So MD and DNB today are known for its very rigorous environments, right? Sometimes they call it toxic environments as well. Do you think this is the appropriate way to train future physicians going forward? Or any inputs on this?
Yeah, very controversial question. So from where I did my DNB, it was not toxic at all. I mean, some toxicity from the management, maybe, more of when the patient used to complain. Like their complaint would not be related to medicine per se. Why was this patient not attended? Not because that person had an emergency, but because the patient's relative complained, why you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
So I think that was a bit weird, which I did not like. But otherwise, I think when it comes to toxicity, we need to find some difference between workload and the behavior of your seniors. Okay, if the workload is more and if the seniors are supportive, it is okay. You can still sail through. Of course, the physical problems of working for 80, 90 hours a week are always there. Yeah. Okay, because doctors don't get time to eat sometimes. They miss their lunch, they miss their breakfast, whatever. That is a bit problematic. I think we really need to increase the number of seats in some institutes so that this can be avoided. At least people should get time to eat in peace, if nothing else. Second is toxicity has been very prevalent in the medical curriculum. I have been lucky to not face it a lot, but I've heard my colleagues go through it. And I don't agree to it. That should change. The ego thing of seniority has to go. You are there to teach and there are people there to learn. No one is owning anyone. They are doing, in the end, the patient is the one who is getting all the benefit. Yeah. And it should be that way. Toxicity really needs to go down. I mean, I don't know how we can get it down unless the seniors understand that, they can't shout on someone randomly for small mistakes. Yeah. I understand if someone does a big mistake, even when they have been taught and they still end up doing mistake, and if the patient's life is at stake or something, I totally understand that. But minor things, getting their personal work done from students, I don't think that is acceptable. That should not happen. So I have always tried to not go in that direction. Yeah. But yeah, it's difficult. Who's already sitting since many years, it's difficult to make them explain to not have this personal work done by the students.
One thing I've also learned in my, years as a leader, right? Leading Knya and a little bit before that as well. I think calmness is such an underrated skill set in leadership, right? And sometimes the best of leaders sometimes get that wrong. I have as well, and I'm sure many other kind of people get it wrong as well. But I think it's a kind of a lesson to a lot of us as we kind of grow up in kind of the practice, that sometimes it kind of pays to just be a little bit more calm and give the benefit of the doubt, step back a little bit.
It's okay. I'm just hear it out, listen, don't react, think about it later.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that works.
Exactly. One data point which actually I was reading, which actually I found pretty interesting, is that 50% of medical graduates today are preferring to take general medicine. What is so special about it?
I think so. General medicine is the mother branch. Then it contains a lot of sub branches, so it's a stepping stone basically.
Yeah.
Once you do medicine, then you can do whatever you please. You can go into neurology, cardiology, hepatology, gastroenterology, immunology, rheumatology, etc., etc. There are a lot of fields now.
Yeah.
So I think that gives a freedom to choose. Basically, once you do general medicine, you can go the whichever way you like, whichever organ you prefer.
Yeah.
You can pick that and get your specialization in. I think that is very important. Plus, a lot of these branches are involving procedures as well. So initially, procedures were only done by surgeons. But now, cardiologists, even gastroenterologists, they do a lot of procedures, even though they come from medicine background, general medicine. So I think that is changing with time. So now people who preferred procedures and wanted to do surgery, even now they are taking up general medicine. That is one. So that because they can do procedures even in general medicine. That is one. Second, I think very important thing that I have noticed is that in general, okay, I might get attacked due to this, but surgery field in general is a bit more toxic. The residency in surgery field is a bit more toxic compared to your medicine. Plus the physical hardships are much more because you have to stand for long hours. Okay, you have to operate for long hours and all that. So I think maybe people are preferring to not go that toxic way and pick something which gives you freedom to choose, freedom to sit back and not do long hour procedures. Maybe that's what my understanding is.
Yeah. No, super. What do you think are the most important skill sets for somebody looking to specialize in internal medicine?
Be curious. I think there has to be some level of curiosity. Why this patient, the going behind why this is happening, why has this patient presented like this, why the labs like this, why is he behaving like this? That thing really, it's like being like a detective. You have to keep on thinking, why is this happening so? Anything which is not fitting in the usual thing, you go back to your history, you go back to your diagnosis, and you will find something like very different from what you have learned. And no patient presents like a textbook picture. Okay, one basic thing that we have learned in that, you might have read the whole of Harrison's the internal medicine.
Correct, of course, I'm with you.
And you would be like, oh, I've read Harrison's, and there'll be a patient and you don't know what to do. So a lot of practical aspects, applying that knowledge of knowing into that practical zone that, patient is not willing, patient has no money to do the procedure. Now, how will you do some jugaad and at least get him well?
Yeah.
So I think that really should be there in a medicine person, be that detective, find out why a certain thing is happening and always keep on learning. You can't be like, today I read this topic, now it will go on. No, every day there are updates, there are guidelines which keep changing with new data. So you have to be a good reader of sorts. You have to be someone who is going back to the books, going back to the guidelines, reading them up, reading studies, understanding. Medical studies is also another skill altogether. Like you can't just go on conclusion, oh, this study has done this, now done. No. Your point is to go in the depth of the study, which patient it can be applied to, which patient cannot be applied to, what are the problems in that study. The pharma will push everything. It's you who has to decide whether this is actually a legit study or not.
Yeah.
So that curiosity has to be there. Yeah. I think that's a basic thing that you should have to be in internal medicine.
No, very fair. Thank you. I think curiosity is important, I think, in almost every field, but no, absolutely. So you specialize in geriatrics.
Yeah.
Why geriatrics?
So initially, even I'll be frank, I did not have any idea about geriatrics when I did my internal medicine. Like we did have a chapter of sorts, but I did not know it is such a huge thing. It's only when one of my friend was doing this course and I realized, okay, this is something new and I would enroll for this. It will be a new learning. Again, the curiosity, let's learn. And once I did that course and I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? I mean, it changed the whole perspective. Okay, we were never taught about this perspective to look at the elderly in such a way that there are problems, issues specific to them. There are things that you can avoid. Before doing geriatrics, I would be scared to advise gymming to the elderly people. Now I routinely tell them to go to the gym, do weightlifting, even at the age of 80, 85 also. So it changes your whole perspective. The things that you have learned the conventional way, okay, this should not be done. Now it's nothing like that. Things are changing with time. And that was more of like once I started knowing that, oh my God, there's so much things that you can do in geriatrics. That's how I started seeing more patients, advising them in a better way, started getting more referrals for the same to look into geriatric patients. And now it's slowly building up more. Yeah.
Could you share some unique challenges of dealing with elderly patients?
Wouldn't say unique, but I would say very, very common is we neglect the mental health part of it. These are the people who have done something all their lives. They are above 60. They have lived somewhat a fruitful life. They had a job. They were an authority somewhere. Some things were running because of them. Now, suddenly they are put in a place where there's nothing to do. And this we do not realize, this plays a major thing on their psyche. It is like, till date, I was valuable. Now there was sense of, okay, I don't know what to do. I'm not being heard at home. No one takes my opinion at home. Job is gone. Okay, they have so much attachment to their companies. Then they see their companies not doing well. It gets affected. They get affected. I was doing so much better when I was in the company. Now the company is going down and everything like that. So I think there's one thing that we don't pay heed to. How do they think? They think very differently than we do. Okay, we are looking to build something. They have built something already. They are now looking for validation from their colleagues, from their family members, from their kids, grandkids. And this is where the whole problem lies. And we find it challenging to explain it to people. Someone who has lived a life for 80 years in a certain way, they will not change in 2 days. You have to let them be. And rather adjust yourself to their ways of doing things.
No, absolutely. I think it's such a unique lens, right? Because I think mental health is so important, but I really appreciated the fact that you shared that the lens at which you look at your patients, right? The geriatric patients, right? Particularly because you see that geriatric patients are often lonely.
Very lonely.
They are often lonely.
It's an epidemic. Loneliness in elderly is an epidemic and we are not doing anything about it, unfortunately. Even when I tell patient to go meet a counselor, there's so much of resistance from the family members. Forget the person.
Yeah.
The family members themselves are like, what is this doctor? How are you telling us to go to a counselor, psychiatrist? Kuch nahi, wo aise hi rehte hai. It's a task.
Yeah. So, I'm really glad you said that, right? Because there's this very famous study. It's a 100-year study done by Harvard University on what makes people happy, right? And at the end of the research, it wasn't money. It wasn't material items. It was only one thing. It was the quality of relationships that you have. If you have quality relationships, you're almost guaranteed to be happy.
Yes.
Few but deep quality relationships, friends, family, people who give that sense of security.
Absolutely.
That is what gives you kind of happiness.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So I found it very powerful that you said that. I'd like to also drill a little deeper on this, doctor. Could you share a very memorable case? It could be a difficult case, but a memorable one. Something that's
in a good way, in a bad way, or
up to you.
Anything.
You can share one good, one bad as well.
So I think one of the important thing which I realized, I had a patient who was maybe late 70s, and good family life, good grandchildren staying all together in the same house, going for regular walks, everything. But he would get this panic attacks. Okay, and we could not figure out. In the one sitting, I could not figure out. I called him again for a follow-up, and I sat down with him for like half an hour to understand what is happening. And he told me that he was working with some company for a company, and he actually built it. They were not employees, but he dedicated some 25, 28 years of his life to that company. And now that company was not doing well. And it gave him panic attacks to see in condition which it is right now. And he had this thing, he always kept telling me, if they send me back again on the ground, I would make it better. So the kind of attachment people have towards their work, even though they are just an employee, it's not their own business, understand, this is just someone they are working for. The kind of attachment that they build with that workplace and leaving them, rest everything is going fine in life. He has a very loving family, and they were also worried ki, bhai, we are doing everything, what is happening? And that made me realize ki, oh my god, this is one thing which we don't realize. We take work so seriously that we are not able to detach ourselves from it. And even when we are not around, and if something happens, we feel bad about it. So that had a lasting impact on me, how much we should push for in any job that we are working in, that it even troubles us 20 years down the line after we leave it. And one of the good instances, so there was this person who had advanced Parkinson's, bedridden case. Not in his senses, almost not in his senses. We don't know what he was doing and everything. But the son was so deeply attached, staying with the family. He did everything. We kind of advised against doing invasive procedures. You should not do it. He's already old. Subjecting him to all these procedures and all might not be good. But he went ahead with it. It was a life-threatening illness. He came out of it, and for 2 years, I think he lived for 2 to 3 years more. And he would take him on a wheelchair for the walks post that incident. And I was also again surprised, to the lens that people go to, just to, even though, see, it's just a single way. The patient may not say anything, may not do anything. Okay, he may not talk to his son again in a proper voice or tone. But still this guy was, no, I want to do everything for my father. Okay. So I mean, that was also it was more to do with the psyche of that son than, because his father was not in a condition to understand what is happening. But still he did everything, and he got 2-3 years of a decent life, quality of life, walking around in the wheelchair and all that. So I think that was commendable.
So 2 insights, right, from your 2 beautiful stories, right? I think people are so wedded to their work, and I think in some sense it becomes the identity.
Yes.
That it becomes a sense of passion that you feel a sense of belongingness towards.
Yes.
Right. And my second would be that I think sitting in your chair, I think the exposure that you get to brute human emotion must be phenomenal, right? Because when people are in pain, people are in despair, people are in, a sense of like their back is to the wall, often they react and kind of behave in different ways than they otherwise would. And sometimes you have a front row seat to that. And you have to treat that in some sense.
Absolutely.
So I think fascinating.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Geriatric medicine is evolving fast, right? What are the core challenges that you face? What are the earning potentials? What is the job satisfaction that you particularly see like in general medicine or like, super specializations like what you've done?
So I think financially, I think any branch that you pick up, if you're good at it, you would get a decent pay. Once you do an MD DNB, I don't think money is really a problem. You may not have a very luxurious life, but you will be better than 90% of the population right now. Okay, so I don't think that is of course it depends how much you're wanting. That is a different story. But from a basic life point of view, I think doing an MD DNB will give you enough exposure to have a decent earning. Of course, if there are certain fields where you may get paid a lot, like cardiology is one of them, one of the highest paying, cardiology, gastroenterology. So wherever there are procedures involved, you would earn more. Unfortunately, geriatrics or something is not very procedure based. So the earning potential is not much when it comes to just consulting. Maybe if you want to set up like a assisted living homes or something, maybe that may generate a good financials. But but again, that will require huge investment and all that things. So from the money point of view, I think geriatrics is not very well paying compared to other fields of medicine. Job satisfaction, very high, I would say, because you get to talk to people who have lived their life, understand their experiences. Like I'm so young and still get to hear so many stories, good, bad, ugly, everything. What becomes of people when they are old. And when I see myself, okay, I may be in this situation someday. And that gives you a good perspective as to how you should live or not live your life. It's like, real-time practical knowledge that I keep getting
Yeah.
about what wrongs and rights I can do in life.
Yeah.
So job satisfaction is very high.
Yeah.
One of the things is, fall prevention is a big
Yeah.
thing in geriatrics.
Yeah.
The whole thing is to prevent one fall. Geriatrics elderly people end up having a fall, and that is like the kind of takes down the quality of life by multiple notches. So the whole point is to prevent a fall. So in that, if you're able to do that, if you're able to tell the relatives that this is what should be done, and if they successfully follow it, the quality of life is very good. And one thing I also tweeted earlier is when you listen in the elderly, make sure they have their bowel movement and listen to their oral movement. Listen to them and make sure they're passing their poop and urine on time.
Yeah.
They'll be happy with you.
Yeah.
And they'll give you so much of, oh, you're the best doctor in the world and everything of that sort. So I think the job satisfaction is very, very good.
Yeah.
In medicine as well, in not just geriatrics. I think in general medicine, you treat, the patient gets better, relatives are happy, job satisfaction is always there.
Yeah. So many people in medicine feel, right, that it's a never-ending journey, right? So should you consider a DM? Should you not consider a DM? What are the financial implications? Who benefits from it? Who doesn't benefit from it? How should they think about it?
So I think this is, again, a very individual choice. One thing I'll say, don't do super specialty or subspecialty because of money. Money will flow in whichever field you are in. If that is your reason to do subspecialty, it should not be.
Yeah.
Do subspecialty for the love of the subject.
Got it.
Okay, if you like cardiology so much that you really want to deal with heart, if you like rheumatology so much that you want to deal with joints and all, do it. Then how much of money comes in MD medicine also, you will not be happy.
Yeah.
Okay, because in the end, you really have to know, be happy at the end of the day with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So one thing which you should choose is the love. If you do not love any particular organ so much,
Yeah.
stick to general medicine.
Yeah.
There's no harm. You will have a decent job life always.
Yep.
So from that perspective, maybe you need not think of DM. But if you are someone who would want to go to the pinnacle of things, I should be the authority in certain diseases, I should be the top, you may go ahead and do DM. But again, a lot matters on your current situation. See, again, 3 years of training, stipend is not that great. Okay, you are usually above your 30s or
Correct.
late 20s. You have a family to set up with. You have multiple things in the family. Or like why I did not do DM. One major reason was that my family members were getting old, and I was already in 3 years in Pune away from Mumbai. So I was like, I can't be not there. And my father fell ill during the course of the illness and during the course of the DNB. And one thing made me realize that if me being a doctor DNB, if I am not around during my parents' issues, what's the whole point of doing medicine?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that drove me like, forget it. And then, to get it in the same city, sit through that thing again, that NEET PG, SS NEET PG and all that, I like, chuck it, I'm not doing it. And COVID happened in the meantime. There was no time to think.
Yeah.
We were working 12, 16, 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
2-3 years went by like this, and then it was too late to even think of doing it.
Yeah.
Because then finances don't match.
Yeah.
You have adopted to a certain lifestyle and then you can't do it.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it, you do it immediately after
Yeah.
MD medicine or DNB medicine.
Yeah.
But again, you should decide, it should be based on what you want to do, where you want to practice. If you are coming from a town where there is no nephrologist, you like kidney disorders, do it. Build something over there. I was from Bombay. Everyone kept telling me, why are you stopping at this? There's no scope and all. But to the contrary, I find a lot of scope because everyone is looking with their narrow vision to their organs and no one is binding all the threads together.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of patients who come to me, this guy sending me to this guy sending me to this guy, you tell me what to do. And I streamline everything and tell them, see, do this.
Yeah.
Baki kuch hoega, I will tell you if you need to do this.
Yeah.
So scope is there in every field. I think you decide where you come from, what kind of life you need. If you're okay with waking up at 2 a.m. in the night for emergencies, go ahead, do a critical care emergency.
OBGYN.
If you don't want to do, take up endocrinology, sit back, relapse, do OPD, go home.
Yeah.
I think it's a very individual based question.
Fair. What advice would you give to medical students as they are deciding on their specialization and kind of navigating their career path, right? Because there's just so much debate about which is the branch I want, what is the location I want, why this branch, sometimes it's the financial reasons, sometimes the work-life reasons, right? But how should they think about it?
So I think from the branch perspective, one thing which you are seeing not happening these days is like people are skipping internship. I think internship is your gateway to understand how medicine works, all specialties. You must definitely do your internship properly. Okay, go into the details of it. Okay, see the patients, ENT, opthal, gynac, casualty, how things are done, how things are run. That will give you an idea as to what you have to do. If not that, at least you will know what you don't have to do. Okay, you would know, okay, this is not made for me. Okay, OBGYN was something, the moment I entered the labor ward, I realized, okay, this is not, I can't do this. So you will know and you will understand what you don't want, if nothing else. That is the basic thing you will understand in internship. So I always advise my students is that please do your internship properly, because that is your, like a trailer of what your life is ahead of you. What is clinical, whether you like clinical medicine or not, whether you like dealing with patients and their relatives or not. If you don't like it, you can always go for non-clinical branches. Fair. You can go to teaching branches. So that is always there. So doing internship is very important. And of course, understand where you come from, what is your financial background, what are your parents' status, how much they are willing to help you in your career growth. Will they be able to set up a clinic for you? Will they be able to, do you have that much of a backing to do that? So all these things taken into consideration, then you decide how early you want to start earning to support your parents, or you're someone who is okay with, if you turn 30, 35, that your parents can take care of you. You can decide your branches as per that.
Fair. So how important is networking, collaboration to enhancing your career, particularly in, in medical fields, right? So what advice would you give?
A lot, quite a lot. If you're someone who is doing freelancing, I think networking is very important. You need to know the people who will send you patients, who will refer patients to you. That is very important. Even, the conferences that you're called upon as a faculty, everything, that all is nothing but, someone's known is coming over there. They don't have a proper process as to screen who will become a faculty, who will not, and all that. Of course, you need some credentials, but then from what I have seen, it's always, someone's who's who of this is coming. This guy was this one's batchmate, now is living in the US and now is coming back, so he's giving a lecture. So all these things matter a lot. Your undergrad, postgrad, everything, wherever you go, make connections across specialties, be for them, get help from them. I think that helps a lot. So networking, you must always, if you're someone who's reserved to yourself, you may find it a bit difficult later on in practice. You have to be a bit outgoing. You have to talk to people, tell them what you're doing, because sometimes people don't know that you're doing. You'll be sitting in the next OPD, but they wouldn't know that you're doing this. Okay, many times people don't even know geriatrics. I have told them, this is what I do. And they're like, oh, we did not know there's a guy sitting here who's doing geriatrics. Then I started getting references. So you must tell people what you do, what are your specializations. You need to go out and speak. It may find a bit stupid. You may find it a bit cringe, but you have to do it. I think you have to do it.
What do you see the future holds for geriatrics and internal medicine over the next decade? How would it evolve?
Huge. So India is a growing population. It's getting old. And I think in the next 10, 15 years, some millions of 60 plus people will be living in India. It will be a huge... the 60 elderly people will outnumber the working population in the next few years or decades. I think 10 to 15 years, if I'm not wrong. From that point of view, geriatrics is a very upcoming, growing field. And still India is yet to catch up on the whole assisted living care, which US is now a big thing. There's a lot of assisted livings and all that, which slowly there are old age, I wouldn't say old age homes have this stigma attached to it. It's more of like an assisted living for the elderly, okay, where the person is independent, okay, but living in a assisted facility to take care of them. There are people round the clock who are there, but still living on their own.
Got it.
So it will grow by leaps and bounds. I think it will grow. The whole geriatric business will definitely grow by leaps and bounds. And I'm scared that there'll be very few people who will be able to tend to such huge numbers of population coming in the elderly. We did have one of the geriatric OPDs in one of the medical colleges. Okay, it stopped after COVID, but it may start again. So I think it is a growing field. there's a huge potential.
Got it.
Yeah, if someone wants to do geriatrics, nowadays I think you can do, even after MBBS, there's an MD geriatrics which you can do specifically for, without like bypassing internal medicine, you can directly do geriatrics. Very few institutes offer that in the country, but I think it's a good field to get into.
I understand that you're a partner at a biotech startup as well. Would you like to speak a little bit about that
So
experience?
it's not biotech startup, it is more of like a consulting firm,
Sure.
Crescere Innovation.
Sure.
So we and my partners, we basically consult startups who are in the medical fraternity, basically biotech, medtech, life sciences, health tech, anything related to medicine, right from their pharma, everything. We consult them how to. So I come in as a actual clinical part of it, the practicality of it. I have a friend who's in the US who has a good market research idea and all that. So he works in financing. He helps with the financing, commercialization. We have contacts with VC funding. We build networks we connect them to VCs. And we also help VCs to understand the business. So many times these VCs don't have an idea of, what this medical thing would do. They are all finance people sitting. They don't know the actual medical knowledge about it. So this is where we come in and we advise them, this is what the product is. This is the market scalability. This is the addressable market and everything. This is the financials of it. That is where we come in, and we help both. We help the VCs also to understand that system. And we also help these firms to help them pitch to the medical fraternity how their innovation will help them. That's how we do it.
Super. I wanted to ask you about end of life care, right? I think dealing with geriatric patients, of course, has its fair positives but also challenges, right? You're often dealing with people who are obviously towards the end of their life, right? And sometimes the diseases that they come up with may not be curable, right? And how do you handle such difficult cases? If you could share some light on these situations, would be very helpful as well to aspiring doctors and aspiring people who want to take up geriatric medicine.
So, most of the time that I have faced, which I've changed now over time, when we were taught medicine, save the patient, life bachao, it's always the focus is on saving a life. No one really teaches us how to have them a dignified death. Okay, there are many times in practice you'll realize that saving is not the option. It is beyond the scope. We are not gods to save each and everyone, So that is where you build with time as to what can be done for the patient. Relatives are usually lost most of the times because they, it's difficult to see someone of your close up on a deathbed or an illness which cannot be cured. So they, and it's a desperate attempt, then they will go on to any advice that they can have, ye kar lo, wahan chale jao, they would stick on to that. Even that happens for cancer also, like your terminal stage cancers and all. They would try all the things in the world on the advice. So that is where you come in. You, first of all, sit them down with the whole family. Who are the stakeholders, the immediate kids, the spouse and everyone, whoever can take a decision. Explain them everything in detail, the pros and cons of things. What would you do if you go on all aggressive? What would you do if you go only on conservative? What is their focus? What had the patient told them? So there are some patients who are pretty clean. They must have told their relatives or kids, ki, boss, this is what I want to do. I do not take me to the hospital ever. Clear words. Okay, so it's easy for them to take a decision. But where there's no thing happening, so end of life care is what we also advise our patients to have a living will. Basically, it's kind of like an advanced care directive.
Got it.
Once you are in your mental well-being proper, okay, you can write a will, like a medical will of sorts, ki what is allowed to do, what is not allowed to do, as per you. In cases of end of life care, whether you need to be put on a ventilator or not, whether you're someone who will be okay with that and all that. So there's a pro forma that comes, you can decide what all can be done to you in the end stages and what all, whether you want to die at home, whether you want to die in the hospital and everything. So I think that needs to change. Sometimes our job is not just to save, but also make sure that the patient that you're treating has a good dignified death close to their relatives. See, no elderly wants to die in a hospital with tubes sticking out their mouth and all that.
Exactly.
Okay. No one wants that in their terminal stages of life. So when you know that this is a point of no return, nothing can be done, you have to make it clear to the family. Ki, listen, this is not going to happen. If you're expecting this, then this is not. But in the end, the choice remains with the family.
Correct.
See, you cannot decide for them. You can only tell them what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but unfortunately in India there is no guideline on this clear cut as to, there's no euthanasia first of all.
Correct.
And there is no, so we can't really like openly advise people into doing this and doing that. On paper we have to advise that, you have to put the patient on ventilator, how much of the bad illness is. But you can definitely tell them the pros and cons of it and direct them ki what is doable, what is not. What are the problems that the patient will face? What are the problems you will face? And then accordingly take a call.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a clear-cut communication with the patient and the family. And most importantly, the patient's family have to trust you. It has to be in such a way that they trust you as to whatever you're saying is for their benefit.
Understood.
I have had patients come to me after they passed away in my care. And they would be like, thank you for guiding us. Thank you for telling us to not put him on ventilator. So, see, in the moment of distress, they would not understand. They would not think through these things.
Yes,
It is your job to make them see the rational side of it
course.
and then take a call.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Super. Super. Speaking of which, right, I think India is a country with a diverse sense of traditions, a diverse sense of values, and there's obviously a lot of say of different family members, right? Unlike the West, right? You have multiple children, you have spouses, you have siblings, you have uncles, you have aunts. Everybody has a say in everybody else's life. And how does this deep sense of tradition play in the life of geriatric care? Because as a doctor, it sometimes gets challenging. There are multiple voices, and how do you balance this?
So, good question, because this is something I face on a very routine basis. And not for geriatrics only, for any patient that comes from a kid to the elderly. This is something that all doctors in India face very routinely. Today there is one relative, second day there's another relative, third day there's someone else, and they'll be like, "Hame nahi bataya, you did not tell us, oh do this, do that." So a lot of varied opinions. So again, my basic directive thing is, what I have seen other people also do it is basically they will form a WhatsApp group with all the stakeholders. Send everything on the WhatsApp group, all the reports and everything, where everyone is updated first of all. Okay? That is one. Easiest way out. Second is, whenever you go on rounds, I think it's very important to speak to the relative, very importantly. Okay, what I see in medical colleges is that there's slightly sometimes a lack of communication from the side of the treating doctor, because of course they're so busy, they have to handle so many patients. So again, the time frame comes into play. But what I always say, whoever's gonna take the main decisions, call them together, make them sit. If you sit with them for 5-10 minutes, half an hour, once in like 3-4 days, I think everyone is pacified. Okay, what is happening, what is not happening. And then you either upfront tell them, whoever is having a contradictory opinion, tell them to call me directly. I will talk. Oh, it goes via this doctor has said this doctor. No, you tell me, I'll talk to the doctor directly. Simple. No middleman.
Understood.
If your doctor is saying do this, somewhere is sitting somewhere else who has not seen the patient, maybe does not have a good idea of what the patient is. What you have told him is not correct. That is what happens most of the times. When I talk to the doctor directly or their relative directly and tell them, boss, this is the scene. Or like, oh, I did not know. They told me the patient is so and so. So these are basic miscommunication. That's it.
Understood.
Like 90% of the problems are miscommunication. There will be 5-10% who would just not agree even with whatever you say. Okay, and you can't do anything about it. But the rest of the times, if you communicate with that person directly who is having a contradictory opinion, they all mellow down. Immediately they mellow down. So I think direct communication to that person who is having a contradictory opinion is very important.
Super. So doctor wanted to understand that how should young doctors spend their time beyond medicine, right? Particularly wanted to understand the importance of financial literacy and how they should start investing their money, because I understand that's not something that's taught in medical school.
So again, not the correct person to answer this, but then whatever my experiences I can tell you, you must have this. So if you don't know anything, don't invest randomly. That is what I would say. You need to have a good knowledge of where you're keeping your money in. Okay, so maybe reach out for help. So what I do is I have someone whom I have a regular conversation with about my money, what to do, where to do. I invest in startups. I have, as I said, my Crescere Innovation as a business.
Yeah.
I'm also investing in my own project, which is a luxury resort in Odisha, which we are building up, and a chain of resorts that we eventually plan to build.
Wow.
It's a big thing, but starting with simple, 2-3 places, and then eventually build on it. So you should know, of course, how much money you have, how much you can spend, what are your lifestyle is. Savings is very important. I think you should have 50%, if you can afford to save, is you should save directly, is what I feel. 30 for your fun and 20 for your day-to-day running life. This is how I divide my thing. Okay, so 50% whatever I save, I have something dedicated for risky investments, some for safe investments, and some for my own startup that I'm doing, the 2 startups that I'm doing. But very important is that you must have someone close, maybe a friend, family, colleague, who has a good understanding of your finance, or you learn your own. Okay, now there are various online courses available which will give you a basic idea. So if you have time beyond medicine, I would recommend you read on to some financial things, marketing, finances, how to do it. And as a doctor also, doctor are basically entrepreneurs. Eventually, every doctor who sets up a clinic becomes a businessman eventually. It is a business in the end. So you have to run your own thing. So I think it's very important to understand how things work, learn, be observing of what people do with their money. Okay. Again, having good connections here helps. So I started into investing because my friend was doing it. So I learned it from him, and that's how I got into it. And I realized having the right connection, because if I did not know this friend, I probably might not be doing it.
Absolutely.
So having a good connection is again very important to what to do with your money. And of course, you have a good CA who would really guide you. As in when you start earning more, the taxes pile up. So that you should have a basic understanding, read up about it if you get time, or dedicate it to someone whom you can trust. If you don't get time, because I understand with doctors it's very difficult to find time to go beyond their own. So dedicate it to someone whom you can truly trust. So that finding that one person who you can trust on everything, I think that is important. Could be your friend, could be your family, anyone.
Super. One more question I had was on the importance of clinical exposure for younger doctors, particularly rounds in the wards. What are your thoughts on that?
This is what I usually see. No offense to anyone, but sometimes the toppers will know if you ask them a question, they would answer it. But if you give them a patient in front of them, they are lost, what to do. So I always tell them, everyone can read online. Google is available to everyone. Harrison is available everywhere. You can go and read up about a topic. But how to apply that knowledge into your practical setting is which will make you a doctor better than others. Okay, as a student better than others, what to do in that scenario. And that you will not know unless you go and see the patient. You have to go on rounds. You have to be very observant of things, why a particular test was ordered, why a particular antibiotic was ordered, what the condition has the patient come from, what is the detailed history. So the ward rounds, whenever you're posted, I think you must go into the wards, spend 2-3 hours of time, observe your patients, take history, talk to them, see the files, what they are being given, why are these tests done. If you don't understand anything, reach out to your seniors. Please explain to me why this test was ordered.
Got it.
Read up about it. And if you still don't understand, then you ask your seniors about it. Okay. So it's very important to spend time in the wards, in the OPDs, so that you can apply this knowledge practically. Otherwise, it is just mugging up is very easy. I mean, it's not a difficult job. So applying that knowledge is very important. That will come only and only you go and see the patient. There is no two-way about it. There is no shortcut.
Absolutely right. I think you can learn swimming only from actually swimming and reading a book. So
you may read all the books by Michael Phelps, but you will still have to go in the water.
No, absolutely. I think it's been a phenomenal conversation. I've learned a bunch. And I'm sure the viewers will be learning a lot as well. I'd like to end with a quick rapid fire, right? And then post that, probably pause. Maybe if you have any questions for us, or probably just have wrap it up. And hopefully some quick answers here. If given a choice again, which branch would you choose and why?
Nothing. I think medicine. It is in medicine for me. I don't think I can do anything else other than medicine.
Which branch would you never pursue and why?
I think OBGY. Sorry, I have a lot of OBGY friends. but I can't. It was, I think in second year I was in Cyan and labor room I walked and there was like people screaming and like, this is not for me. I can't do this. So yeah, I don't think I can do that.
The most underrated medical specialty in India.
Physiotherapy, physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and psychiatry. These three things are, I think, underused by a lot of doctors. I think we should give them more referrals, is what I feel.
One medical myth you wish every patient stop believing.
Vitamin C, IV drips, lounges, and probiotics, vitamins, etc. being sold over the counter. I don't think anyone needs it. If you're a otherwise healthy person who has no symptoms and all, you don't need all these things. These are just marketing stuff. That's it. Yeah.
Rounds, OPD or ICU, where do you feel most in your element?
Rounds and ICU, I think. Rounds and ICU, yeah. Rounds and ICU, same thing basically. A bit overlapping, but rounds and ICU both, yes.
One non-medical skill every doctor should learn and why?
Communication skills. Communication skills. I think every doctor should know how to communicate. That is the soft skills, how to tell about a case, how sensitive to understand how sensitive the relatives are to a particular situation. People reading skills, if what they call it. I don't know what it's called, but it's something that we understand with time. It's a
interpersonal skills is what
interpersonal skills, communication skills. Very, very, very important.
I think it's an important skill everywhere, right? So in business school at Stanford, we had one class called basically interpersonal dynamics, right? Where you're just put in a room with 10 people and there's no agenda. You're just talking, giving feedback to each other. And I think sometimes in the essence of, learning engineering and finance and healthcare and medicine, you kind of miss that everything is a people problem. Everything in life is a people problem. It's how do you deal with people? How do you give feedback? How do you receive feedback? How do you have difficult conversations? Right? And I think in medical school, it's so
very
relevant.
Important. So the new curriculum that has come, I think from 2021 batch or 2020 batch, it's a BCME, some competence-based medical education.
Okay.
So CBME is the new set of curriculum that has come in by the NMC. I think it has specific dedication to ATCOM. ATCOM is basically attitude, ethics and communication. So now every year they have questions in theory paper as well as in practical about ATCOM. How you counsel a diabetic patient, how do you counsel someone, all these things. So that is, and how to behave with the seniors, colleagues, how to have a counter argument with your colleagues in place. And I think that is amazing. So
very good.
Eventually the new pass outs will have somewhat of communication skills better than us, hopefully.
So absolute pleasure. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And that's all, guys. Real pleasure to host Dr. Anuj. It was such an exciting conversation. Learned a bunch. So please like, share and subscribe. And do watch the entire podcast and reach out to Dr. Anuj if you have any questions. His details will be down in the description. Thank you again and have a lovely day. Take care.